Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm Tristan Riddell.
And you're listening to The Nerd Party.
Talk nerdy to me.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
This is episode 34 of The Nerd Party. Thank you so much for downloading, subscribing, listening, rating, everything that you do as fans. We're getting more and more people, and we're getting, ever since we redid the website. Now, I'm not saying that it was like a major overhaul or anything like that or anything special about it, but ever since we redid the website and we did our Star Wars related stuff, and that helped a lot, we've been getting thousands upon thousands of hits on the website.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty amazing, and I think now you'll begrudgingly admit it's probably worth it to go see Star Wars at opening weekend if that's what draws people in.
Oh yeah, I mean, say what you want about Star Wars fans, because it's there's always been contention against Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans. I try to walk the line as much as I can, but they are definitely interested and loyal to the franchise.
Well, yeah, and except for the EU and cartoons, they've had a 10-year drought. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like how when all of us were talking about Star Trek 2009.
Yeah.
And even then we didn't have that long of a drought between
4 years.
Nemesis. Yeah.
Well, even at the end of Enterprise, we only had 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, today we're going to be talking about a franchise that means a lot to Matt and I, and that is the Scream franchise. We've talked about it a little bit before, and we teased it last week if you listen all the way to the end. And we hope that you guys listen all the way to the end, because I know a lot of shows, they talk about sponsors and they talk about, like where to give them ratings and everything like that. But we try to keep it interesting all the way up until the end, where we tease. We don't tell you right out what we're going to do, but we tease it. And so we're going to be talking about the Scream franchise. But before we get into that, everybody's in a fervor because of Spectre. It was released in the UK. It's going to be released in the US this week.
Yep, going Friday night. Very excited.
I am excited for you.
Almost done with my Bond rewatch. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. In the last 2 weeks, I've crammed in almost every past Bond film. I'm up to the Brosnan era now, so I've made excellent time considering the short amount of time I started this with.
I am thoroughly impressed, and I mean that with no BS. Like, as one geek to another, I'm thoroughly impressed with your dedication. And also our friend of the show, Lee, his dedication as well. It's like both of you have been hardcore watching.
See, but he did a Bond a day. He planned it out where, like, he only had to watch one film a day. I've been averaging at least 2, if not 2.5 every day.
Yeah, you've been gobbling it up. You've been consuming Bond. So,
no offense, Lee. I love it.
No offense to Lee. But the reason why I want to bring it up is, obviously we haven't seen it yet, so we're not going to talk about the fan reaction, the critic reaction, or anything
that would be stay tuned for our next show.
Exactly. Very next show, we're going to be talking about Spectre. But the thing is, I just saw something that Daniel Craig said in an interview, and I love Daniel Craig. I mean, regardless of Bond. I mean, I love his stuff, and I love his kind of his verve, his style. And I need to find out what editorial this is from, but an interview asks him, what could we learn from James Bond that would help us in our day-to-day lives? Daniel thinks for a short while, responds with, nothing. But let's not forget that he's actually a misogynist. A lot of women are drawn to him chiefly because he embodies a certain kind of danger and never sticks around too long. Then the interviewer asks, and this time you've gone one better, showing 007 succumbing to the charms of an older woman. His response, I think you mean the charms of a woman his own age. We're talking about Monica Bellucci, for heaven's sake. When someone like that wants to be a Bond girl, you just count yourself lucky. And the interviewer says again, Bond has actually become a bit more chivalrous in the most recent films, hasn't he? He goes, that's because we've surrounded him with very strong women who have no problem putting him in his place. I love Daniel Craig, and I love that he said all this, because it's as much, like, here's the thing. You hosted a Voyager show, I currently host a Voyager show, and we are very honest. Like, I love Voyager to death, but we're very honest about it. We're very honest about the failings of Voyager.
Yes.
And we don't hide from them. So I'm really glad that Daniel Craig can look at this this character and see his faults, because we do glorify Bond, and he is amazing. He's an awesome character, and I will watch anything with him in it. But he does have these failings, and because of that, I started going through the Bonds in all of their incarnations and started noticing a definite trend of younger women. And the Monica Bellucci is 4 years older than Daniel Craig, and that very rarely happens in Bond, and it has only happened one other time before. And the biggest age gap in a woman older than Bond was in Goldfinger with the woman who played Pussy Galore, and she was five years older than Sean Connery.
Honor Blackman, yeah.
Thank you. Honor Blackman was 5 years older than Sean Connery, and the worst offender...
It's got it. Can I just guess?
Yeah, yes. I want you to guess. So who do you think is the absolute worst offender and where?
Well, the worst offender for Bond has got to be Roger Moore, because the guy played Bond up to the time he was 57 in A View to a Kill, when he finally hung it up. So I'm going to go with... I'll go with that one. I'll go with Roger Moore and Tanya Roberts from A View to a Kill.
28-year difference.
Was I right?
Yes, absolutely. You were absolutely right. 28-year difference. Gross.
Well, I just rewatched View to a Kill, and it's a fun, stupid movie, but God, does he look like he's 300 in that film.
Well, see, we talked about A View to a Kill not too long ago, and Bond's age never bothered me. And I said that in the podcast, that Roger Moore being older never bothered me. I'm fine with an older Bond, but what I'm not okay with is when they try to pass this child as a love interest.
Well, I don't know, Tristan. I mean, have you seen what they have the older Bond supposedly do in that film?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's all fantasy to me. You know, it's just like when you watch the Avengers, it's not really Robert Downey in an iron suit. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just say that I'm surprised you're actually becoming aware of this now, given that you're such a big fan of the franchise. But or the fact that people are paying attention to this now, like, hey, Bond's always had younger women. Yeah, I mean, like.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, is that, like, I started going back, and Roger Moore was by far the worst offender, not just in A View to a Kill, but on average. Like, I started going through, and on average, I can get you the numbers, but I don't want to bore you guys. Like, on average, I think it goes, Roger Moore's the worst.
Yeah.
And then I believe it might be Pierce Brosnan, then Timothy Dalton, then it might be a toss-up between Daniel Craig and Sean Connery.
Yeah, Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, they never really seemed that egregious. But, you know, I kind of... there's been some controversy around it, but I kind of like how Daniel Craig's entered the not giving a shit stage of his stint as Bond. Not in the sense that he's not putting forth commitment to the character, but he's not afraid to be blunt. In many ways,
Yes.
He's kind of like his character, to be perfectly honest. And I'm the reason I'm not surprised he's saying these things now is because if you think about it, he has played the most flawed version of the character. I think him and Timothy Dalton, I think, would be the people who've played the most flawed version of the character. But
definitely the most flawed version, the person with the most kind of problems and history and everything like that. And it's just, yeah, like Daniel Craig has always been blunt in interviews, almost for any role that he's played, and it's awesome. And it's just, he's 47. The man is 47 years old, and as much as I love Daniel Craig and I want to see Daniel Craig and I want to see him play Bond as long as possible, it may be time to kind of pass the torch.
Yeah, well, keep in mind Roger Moore was like 43 when he started as Bond.
I know, and I've never enjoyed it.
I'm just saying. I mean, like in the Bond pantheon, 47 is not too old, but yeah,
you're right.
You're
right.
The day is slowly coming, and you know, I'll be fine when we move on. But I always go through that weird transition stage, like, that this person who's been Bond for the last few years is not going to be the character anymore. It just feels weird for a little bit, and then you see the new movie, and then you're okay.
See, that's the thing, is that I don't want them to reboot again, and I don't think that they will. But it was a major plot point in Skyfall about Bond getting older. So how can they keep the history from this iteration with a new actor who is ultimately, let's face it, going to be younger?
You know what though? I don't know, but the thing is that I want them to pull another Judi Dench really badly, in the sense that I want to keep Ray Fiennes, Naomi Harris, and Ben Whishaw as M, Moneypenny, and Q respectively. I don't think they should go. They just started.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying, is that I want them to keep them, as in this continuity, this second James Bond continuity that we're in. I don't want that to go away. I love that they built this, but a major plot point is Daniel Craig was an older Bond.
Well, but every time that they've recast it, I mean, Daniel Craig obviously was a hard reboot, but the rest of the time they've all been sort of soft reboots. So I think they could make it work. I just don't want to see those three go, because they were such good gets that why recast those roles after just 2 films?
Absolutely. And one last thing, the average was kind of like 7 to 15 years in age difference, and I come from my wife and I both come from parents that there's a 7-year age gap. So to me, 7 years is nothing. But like once you get up to like 10 and more, I'm just kind of like, at least it's not like Liam Neeson and Olivia Wilde.
And then 28 years.
Oh my god. All right, so Scream franchise. Now, Wes Craven is no longer with us.
Recently passed.
And it was a huge blow to the horror community, huge blow to the film community.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like he had so much more to do, but thankfully the work that he left us will stand the test of time, and I really do think that Scream is one of those films. It came out in December 20th, 1996.
A Christmas film. Just exactly what you want to see over the holidays.
I love when they do that stuff. Like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was kind of touted as a Christmas film.
Any excuse to bring up that film, huh, Tristan?
I know. It took a lot in me not to talk about the age gap between Lisbeth and Daniel Craig's character and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but that's for another podcast.
Yeah, that is. But yes, Christmas movie. A movie that sort of revitalized the horror and slasher genre in 96, because prior to that, both of those genres had kind of wallowed in, obscurity for the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. And this was a big portion of, I think a big portion of its success was that because it wasn't just another run-of-the-mill horror film, because it was self-referential.
Postmodern is the film school term for it, but yes.
A postmodern horror film. But the thing is, there's so much time has gone between 1996 and today that it would take another postmodern era to reference back to Scream.
Well, what's funny about it is postmodern was, a brand new thing for when Scream was coming out. Now postmodern has become yet another horror cliche, hasn't it at this point?
I think so, especially with Scream 4 and also the Scream television show that we're hitting up with right now. But those are separate discussions, and Scream 4 will come later today.
Yeah, Scream 4 will come later, for me positively. But there's a couple still that work. I mean, did you ever see Cabin in the Woods from a few years ago?
I did, yes. Oh, good. Yes, good call. That
was another postmodern film, but again, Joss Whedon and the people behind the film found a new twist to it. So it still can be done, but it has become a cliche thanks to this film.
That is a spot on example of how it can still work and be self-referential to its own genre as well as other genres, like with the whole reality television thing, which, obviously was hotter, a decade before, but still. So with this, one thing, when we talk about franchises, I love to discuss with you about where you were, when you first saw it, how'd you first see it, what was going on with you. So what was your introduction to the Scream franchise?
I rented it, but I was, in 96, that would have made me 7. And, that's early enough for people to start forming memories, right? So, I remember this thing being advertised all over television. It seemed like every commercial break there was a TV spot for it. So you couldn't escape it. I remember it coming out. I remember the big hoopla of it coming out. But I didn't catch up with it until, I want to say it was around 2004-ish. It's when I started getting into, when I was old enough to start getting into horror. I had already seen, I had already seen the Halloween franchise. I'd already seen a lot of the 70s and 80s stuff that Scream ended up referencing. So thank goodness I waited, because I got more of the jokes in Scream, having already seen those films.
Yeah.
But I want to say it was around, I think it was freshman year of high school that I finally saw this film.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you remember it being advertised, and you remember it like being all over the place, but you waited an appropriate amount of time. Because so thankfully you did not watch this as a 7-year-old.
No, I mean I had parents, after all, who weren't going to take their 7-year-old child to the movie theater to see this horror film.
I was 10, and I actually saw it soon after it came out. I saw it at around 11. Because what happened is that I have a sister who's 4 years older than I am, so she was 14 when it came out. And 14, like, she was heavily involved. Like, she was one of the popular kids. She had a lot of friends. They would go to the movies together all the time. And obviously, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old is not supposed to go into an R-rated movie, but she, of course, found a way in. And the horror genre is so very much teen-oriented.
It is. They can make rated R films, but they know that their primary audiences usually are under 17 anyway.
Exactly. So they know this, and so they cater it towards them. And my sister was definitely a part of that culture. It's not like she was like a hardcore horror fan. She was just a teenager in the media at the time. And so because of her, I was exposed to it at a very young age. And, she bought it on VHS and showed it to me. And so that's how I kind of like was engaged with this stuff at a little bit younger age. And I was surprised at how much I liked it. And I was just like, oh, I don't like horror films, but I like this film. And I liked it because it wasn't gory.
So you were able to comprehend it at 11 years old?
Yeah, I was, for the most part.
And not gory. I mean, like, Drew Barrymore's disemboweled in the first 15 minutes.
That's true. But that was really intense. But at the same time, it's not like we saw her being disemboweled. We saw the aftermath.
Okay, wow.
You know the difference?
Splitting hairs here, but yes.
I am. I recognize that. I really do. But it's and so because of this, I started watching other horror films, and I hated them. Like, I just, like, I started watching this stuff at the time, and it just felt like torture porn and grotesque stuff. And we've talked about this before. This caused a fury. I mean, this was a hit movie in the 90s, in 96 and in 97. It had a budget of $15 million, which is nothing, absolutely nothing, and it grossed 173.
Yeah, it was a big hit, and I do remember. I don't think it opened massive. I think it opened well, but this was back in the time when you could actually have movies in theaters for so much longer than you can now. Mm-hmm. Movie theaters really try to get movies in and out of theaters because everything's coming out. Everyone wants, premium retail space in a movie theater. But I'm pretty sure this was a big hit, like, going well into, like, January, February, around that time, too. So it stuck around, which doesn't happen. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, not really. And also, at the time that it came out, the horror genre was kind of suffering. Like all these sequels in the 70s and 80s. And also, like when we had, because of videotape, that was coming out in the 90s, people were like, oh, well, we want to make a horror film cheap, and we don't want to pay for theatrical distribution, so let's just do it straight to tape. And it just, it started oversaturating, and like, it just, quality was not coming out. And then boom, Wes Craven reads this script from Kevin Williamson, who is also the creator of Dawson's Creek.
And Vampire Diaries and so many other teen-oriented shows. Which, you laugh, but when you look at the characters in Scream, that comes through. I mean, they are teenagers that just happen to be in the middle of this horror movie.
Right, and you feel that. You definitely feel that.
Yeah. So it's not that big of a leap. But what I ended up loving about it by the time I saw it is because, you know me, I love all the films that this film ends up referencing. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're taking a look at it and deconstructing it and then putting a new spin on it, it was tailor-made for people like me. And I think that's why it ended up being such a big hit in 96.
And and also, I mean, like, there's even stuff where like some of these kids' parents' names are names of characters from previous horror films. And, like, that's how granular this script gets. And so, like, Kevin Williamson clearly knows the genre, loves the genre, and wanted to reintroduce some of that.
I mean, down to the fact that if you notice during the climax when the big confrontation is happening at the end, what film's playing on the TV?
Yes, exactly. Halloween.
So, this movie was just tailor-made for me, and I love Kevin Williamson for it.
And also, we have this great speech given by what's it? Jamie
Randy.
Kennedy. Yeah, the Randy character,
who's basically me. That's the character
who is basically Matt Hansen, and who's the horror geek, the film geek. And I just loved that they didn't hide it whatsoever. They're just like, no, these are the rules of a horror film, and they actually, while they go through it, and like, here's the obligatory tit shot, and then bam, we see Neve Campbell take off her bra, but then they hide it by Skeet Ulrich, and so they just had this cool juxtaposition going back and forth that today would be cheesy, but at the time was actually quite funny.
So how do you want to break this down, Tristan? Do we need to go over the basic plot? I think people have seen this film by now, but actually it's going to be 20 years old next year, which kind of blows my mind. But
I know that's going to be absolutely crazy. I don't think we need to go over the plot. I feel like people who are listening to this know Scream.
Okay.
They know the franchise. I don't think we need to go plot by plot.
Well, then how do you want to discuss the films? Because I feel like we're jumping all around at different points of the film. So what do you want to do?
But we're starting with Scream. We're going all over the place. I mean, like, this is the one that started it all. Like, we'll go through and we'll talk about, once we get to Scream 2, 3, and 4, we'll talk about our reactions to it, what we liked and what we disliked. Right now, I just like that we're riffing about Scream. Now, we have to talk about Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, I do want to talk. I was going to bring that up because I feel like, even having not seen the film when it first came out, the Drew Barrymore portion of the film, I think, was the most talked about outside of the theater. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know, because do you remember the advertising as much as I do?
Yes, very much so.
She was all over that advertising. I would say even more so. She was given equal, if not more, screen time on that advertising than Neve Campbell was.
And also all of the promotion materials outside of video, like print and posters and everything like that. She was the main focus on every single Scream poster. And Neve Campbell was completely secondary.
Yeah, she was. I do remember seeing Drew Barrymore a lot more. And, of course, the big surprise being that Drew Barrymore is in the film for the first 15 minutes and is the opening kill, which a lot of people at the time equated to Janet Leigh being killed off in Psycho. Janet Leigh is the most well-known actress in that lineup of actors in that film. And so she was considered by many to be the star. So when she's taken out half an hour into it, that was a big shock back then. And it worked just as well with Scream.
Absolutely. And they used marketing on their side. And I remember at the time, my sister got the VHS tape and she showed it to me. And she's like, you see this? You see Drew Barrymore? She's only in it for 15 minutes. This is ridiculous. This is like I'm sure like it was part of her contract where she had to be the focus, and she just had all this disdain towards Drew Barrymore. And I was just like, I started thinking, like, even as a young person, I was just like, well, I mean, clearly they had a reason for this. And so it's so funny to go into it knowing that they had this idea. They're like, let's get a big star, big star,
actually,
and then change protagonist 15 minutes in.
Did you know that the whole thing was Drew Barrymore's idea?
I did not know that.
Actually, it was, because having studied this film, Drew Barrymore was originally cast as Sidney Prescott because they wanted a big-name star to headline this film. And she loves horror films as much as I do. So it was actually her that talked to Wes Craven and said, you know what, I don't want to do the main part. I want to do the first girl that gets killed. And, Wes Craven was initially very hesitant, so was the studio. But she's like, no, if you guys don't realize that this would be a great marketing ploy, put me as the front and center of the advertising, but have me be the first person who gets killed. Everybody will be talking about this film. So it's actually Drew Barrymore that we have to thank for
so cool.
her playing the first girl.
I did not know that at all. That is so cool and wicked smart.
Yeah, she was Drew Barrymore. I love Drew Barrymore anyway, but the fact that she had the the willingness to do that, and she had no ego about it. I mean, she could be the star if she wanted to. She could demand whatever she wanted to at that point, but she wanted to be the first to go, and she thought that it would be a great play for the film, and it was. So she was absolutely right.
Oh yeah, the mid-90s was her time, absolutely. Okay, so, great movie, very self-referential, postmodern. I hate Skeet Ulrich, and so it helped me with my disdain of him being the killer.
Because I haven't seen much of him from anywhere else. Where did you build up all this anger for him from?
Pretty much this one, like this film. Why? I don't know. I don't like him. I don't like his face.
He's kind of like the poor man's Johnny Depp, isn't he? Especially in this film.
Yeah, he feels that way to me. He feels like an imposter of a movie star, but yet he's touted as one. And I was like, why is he famous? But Matthew Lillard, I think, did an amazing job as the secondary killer. He was super creepy, super weird, and it wasn't a big stretch. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, one thing that I really love about these killers is that it's not I hate it in movies where the killer is your average Joe, like happy-go-lucky, helps the old woman, with her groceries into her house and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, as soon as everyone finds out that he's the killer, he's just like licking his lips and like scratching his face and going woohoo, and he's just clearly crazy. But yet, in this movie, these kids, their personalities aren't that much different once it's revealed that they're killers.
No, and the thing I like especially about Skeet Ulrich is about halfway through the film, they already suspect him to be the killer, and he acts really weird throughout the whole film. Like you're never sure what to think of him, but the film does a pretty good job of convincing you at that point that no, it's probably not him. So they do pull a double cross on you, which I ended up liking, and Matthew Lillard just has. The thing I like most about him is he has such a pliable face.
Yeah,
right? I know that sounds weird, but he has like this. He has this face where he could do all these weird facial expressions, and it's no wonder they cast him literally as a live action cartoon for the Scooby-Doo movies. He's perfect for that sort of thing, and so he's crazy. He's manic, but he worked in the role. I was pleasantly surprised by him.
Now, before we move on to Scream 2, we need to talk about the two most important things of the franchise.
Well, we need to talk
Sidney
about
Prescott and Ghostface.
Well, yeah, we also need to talk about the fact that aside from Drew Barrymore, all these other people are either A, unknowns, or B, TV actors at the time, because Sidney Prescott, since you mentioned, or Neve Campbell, best known at that time for she was on Party of Five.
Party of Five.
The show where everybody cries at least once a week.
Right.
One person's guaranteed. One character is going to have a meltdown once a week. But that's what she was known for. She also did a little cult movie that I love called The Craft at the same time. But so she was kind of. I remember her being in the advertising, but like we were saying, she was definitely billed as second to Drew Barrymore. But of course, after the opening scene. You may not realize that she's our main character, but they do make it clear as the rest of the movie goes that, yeah, she's going to be the main character. But I thought she did a great job, and I know why you cast it with her, because very much like her Party of Five character, Sidney Prescott is a character that, and this is not a knock against her, but Sidney Prescott is a character that always exists in melancholia. So,
well, yeah, I agree with you on that. She's the girl next door, but the fly on the wall at the same time.
Well, what I'm saying is that her life is always kind of sad and tragic because, you start the movie, her mother's been murdered the year before. She will discover she's been murdered by Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. She doesn't know that now. She thinks he's been murdered by, in a very brief appearance in this movie, Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, Cotton
Weary, who will have a much bigger role in Scream 2. So, she already starts off this movie very, very downtrodden and kind of depressed. I mean, she has that great lament theme that's in all of the Scream movies. So she's always a character that's a little bit down in the dumps and dealing with loss, which is exactly what her character was on Party of Five. So that's why you cast her.
And that's probably why she got the job. Now, she survives. Obviously, she leads us on to 3 other movies. But let's talk about Ghostface. Let's talk about, because we need to get going. We need to get moving. But we need to talk about Ghostface here. All right. So there's nothing really original about Ghostface, but yet he's become super iconic. Would you say it's more his look or his voice or a combination? You think it's both? Yeah, because that's the thing, is that, like, when I think Ghostface, I don't really think about his face. I think about his voice, because it's all about the phone call.
I do think about his face because that mask was kind of everywhere in the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a testament to the fact that they got the same voice actor to do the Ghostface voice for all 4 films. Mm-hmm. So there's something about that guy's voice that works for the role. So I think it's a combination of both, quite frankly.
I think they nailed it in its simplicity. It's a Halloween mask, black robe, and knife. Like, there's nothing really original about it, but it works. Mm-hmm. It absolutely works.
Based off a painting.
Which one?
It's called The Scream. Edward.
Oh, it's based off of The Scream?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well,
I never really would have put that together.
I mean, that's what I've heard anyway.
Okay.
So we'll move on to the next movie, but he's iconic. Neve Campbell's great, and I got to give big thumbs up for Courtney Cox and David Arquette, because they're going to be major parts of all the films. But I love Courtney Cox in these films. She's such a bitch, and
Gale
Weathers, and actually, I mean, I'm probably most like Randy, but I would love to play Gale just because she's so nasty and she's so conniving and so against what she was playing on TV at the time, which is why she wanted to do the film.
Oh yeah, both of us are very much the Randy of Scream, but always we want to be the.
You wish
the
you were
O'Connell.
the Randy. I know more about these films than you do.
Oh well, horror, yeah, but okay. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so. Super successful, 15 million up to 157 or something like that. And Scream 2 came out the very next year.
I remember being shocked, like, because I remember the advertising for the second one as well. And I'm like, didn't we just have the first one? I do remember it being very, very close together. But yeah, from what I read too, when Kevin Williamson wrote Scream 1, he already wrote the treatment for Scream 2. So that's why it was able to go into quick production.
Very cool. Well, they got $9 million more in budget, which, again, is not that much more. It's up to $24 million. But the thing is, it made almost the exact same amount.
Yeah.
That in the 90s, that was unheard of for sequels.
Yeah. Well, nowadays we just expect sequels to do more. But yeah, you're right. It was very unexpected. And gotta tell you, I know that this might be contentious going forward because you dislike good things, but I really enjoy Scream 2. I gotta be honest.
I love Scream 2.
I think it's a great sequel. I really do.
I freaking love Scream 2. Don't presume crap about me. I love Scream 2. I love everything about it. I love that it's on. I love that the first one was a high school, and then this one's in college. I love that. I love that they're on a college campus. I love the feeling of it. I think everything about it, I think, is fantastic.
And they still retain the postmodernism, except that this time they get to talk about the horror movie sequel.
Yes, yes, exactly. They're in a sequel, and they're talking about other sequels like Terminator and Godfather.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say,
like
the scene you probably love is the scene that I love, where at the beginning where it's Jamie Kennedy, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Joshua Jackson, and a few other people in film class talking about film sequels.
Like,
and I love me some Randy, but he gets something wrong in that scene. He insists that the line from Aliens is "Stay away from her, you bitch." It really is "Get away from her, you bitch," and that's always bothered me about him. I'm like, everything else. How could you get that wrong?
I know, that really bothers me too. And I love how it was like a WB reunion in that classroom. And it's like when I saw that as a kid, I was just like, I want to do that. Like, I want to go to college for that. Like, I just want to sit in a room and just talk about movies and yell at other people for their horrible taste.
And and I gotta say, I'm with Joshua Jackson in that film. I like all of Cameron's sequels better.
Well, hell yeah. So, okay, here's the thing, is that I love everything about Scream 2. I know I said that. I love everything but the opening scene. I hate the prologue. I fast forward it every single time.
I think it's creative.
I can't stand it. Hate it. I hate Jada Pinkett Smith in this. I hate their conversation. I hate the way that I think she dies weird. And I think she has a horrible death. And like the movie can absolutely start, like at where we see Sidney for the first time on campus, and you lose absolutely nothing.
There's your disliking good things.
No.
Comes in later.
I love this movie. Shut up. Stop saying that. I love this movie, and that's the only thing I don't like. But the thing is that the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they used Jada Pinkett Smith in the same not the same fashion as Drew Barrymore.
They did not use her in the same fashion. They did not.
That's what I just said.
Okay.
I said they did not use her in the same fashion, but they used her in a similar fashion where she's all over the promotional material.
Well, she's but they do that for all the films. I mean, this film, I think it's this film that invented, remember the great trend in the 90s of the, I don't know what it's called, but the faces on a movie box where they all fade into the distance. Like they just have all the people's, like if you look at the front cover for Scream, it's all the cast's pictures on the box, and they all kind of fade into the center line or something like that. They stagger them so that you can see everybody. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that started this trend because I saw that kind of style all over movie boxes in the 90s.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that they plaster her far more than what her screen time warrants, like they did with Drew Barrymore. But I don't think it's anywhere near as effective because we've been through it. Just last year, we were through this type of marketing campaign.
You can't, but the thing is, you can't recapture that. There's no way to recapture that. Even if they'd done an opening where you liked it, it wouldn't be the same.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't recapture it, so why attempt it?
Because it's a signature, and it's something that they keep doing throughout the films. Which I gotta say, by the time they get to part 4, I actually think they got creative with it again. But I didn't mind it. I think it's wonderfully over the top. It's perfect for this film. Since you didn't mention her, so I'm guessing you didn't have a problem with her. But my favorite aspect of the film is Laurie Metcalf being one of the killers.
Laurie Metcalf, it's so funny because like she was on Roseanne at the time,
right?
And so, she was Aunt. I don't even remember her name.
Yeah, I remember her from Roseanne. Yeah.
Yeah, she was the aunt in Roseanne. It was a sitcom comedy, and I guess that's redundant, but it was a sitcom, and like everybody loved it. And then all of a sudden, boom, she's the killer. Like she was this annoying reporter, this kiss ass.
Not only the killer, Skeet Ulrich's mother.
Yes. Keeping it in the family in Scream.
Which I loved, but the thing is that the reason I loved her so much is because when she's finally revealed as the killer, she's wonderfully crazy, and she's got the crazy eyes going for her, which she's very menacing for an older woman. So
she is very menacing. She's great. I think she's a horribly underrated actress.
I do too. And let's not forget, in the spirit of new and upcoming stars that would go on to do future things, other killer Timothy Olyphant.
Timothy Olyphant is freaking fantastic. I love Timothy Olyphant. I think he is an amazing actor, another underrated actor, and he is badass on Justified.
Yeah. I mean, he went on to bigger and better things, but I always remember him from this film.
Yeah, there's a lot of great actors in this. I mean, like we have Nev Campbell, of course, but we also have Sarah Michelle Gellar, who I love and adore. We have Jerry O'Connell. We have Liev Schreiber.
You want to talk about kind of the Drew Barrymore of this movie? It's not so much Jada Pinkett Smith. I think it would have been Sarah Michelle at the time, because wasn't this around the same time that Buffy was either starting or getting ready to go? So she would have been... I think she would have been a somewhat known quantity at this point.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, like, Joshua Jackson at the beginning, like at Dawson's Creek at the time. And
Dawson's Creek actually came the following year.
Oh, excuse me, I got my years mixed up. What was he doing in there? Like, what there was some other teen thing he was in.
The Mighty Ducks?
No, it wasn't the Mighty Ducks. It was Urban Legends.
That's also the following year.
Damn it. Yeah, you're absolute. I knew you were right, but I just, for some reason, I thought all this stuff was before Scream 2. What the hell is he doing in Scream 2 then?
He might have been auditioning for Dawson's Creek at the time.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay. So that's really funny. Yeah. All of his stuff: Urban Legend, Cruel Intentions, The Skulls. Oh yeah. All after Scream 2. That's funny. Yeah. So great people. Sarah Michelle Gellar was absolutely in Buffy. I I thought she had a great scene, though. I thought she had a great role.
She did, but
I don't think they wasted her at all.
No, they didn't waste her. She's just taken out very quickly. I mean, she's
Mm-hmm.
she's the next one to go after the opening sequence. I gotta say, for my money, since we're not really going through the plot, that we're just gonna jump through it. My favorite moment of tension, besides the Laurie Metcalf scenes in this film, are at some point they're trying to take Sidney and her friend away to some sort of safe house,
Right.
in a police vehicle, and they end up getting attacked by Ghostface. The two cops end up dying, and Ghostface is in the front of the car, knocked out, and through chance, the only way that they can get out is through the door that Ghostface is sitting next to. So that whole sequence of them having to sneak over and try to not wake him out of unconsciousness is the best scene of tension in that second film for me.
Yeah. I think it's a wonderfully crafted scene, and it's I don't know, it's believable to me. I think now personally I would have killed him first and then gotten over him, but that's whatever. That's just me.
But with what?
This is your bare hands. Crush his windpipe. Done.
You're gonna have little Nev Campbell strangle Timothy Oliphant?
Yes. I think little Nev Campbell can strangle an unconscious man. Yes, absolutely.
Well, the thing I love about little Nev Campbell is her going up to Laurie Metcalf at the end and just shooting her in the head, her dead body in the head again, and she says, just to be sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's very reminiscent of when she shot Skeet Ulrich. She's like, not in my movie. I love the one-liners like that.
Which is exactly what you should do in all these horror films. That's they finally do what I've always wanted them to do, which is either shoot the killer in the head just to take care of everything, or in the case of the Halloween sequel that came out after the Scream movies, just chop the guy's head off.
Yeah, right. All right, well, Nev Campbell survives. Her boyfriend, Jerry O'Connell, sadly does not. And we find out, who the killer is.
Poor Jerry O'Connell. He doesn't have a clue in this film, and
yeah.
What's worse, they have him stuck singing the Partridge Family.
I know he doesn't catch a break.
You want to talk about the scene that I fast forward through in Scream 2? It's that Partridge Family scene.
I fast forward through her doing her role in the theater.
Oh, that too. That's just weird.
It's just weird.
Although I love David Warner.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's phenomenal. David Warner's a great actor. Nothing about him, but it's just funny because my wife is a drama teacher, and it's just so funny because they have this really deep conversation where he's very caring for her and just like really understanding and everything like that. And my wife is just like, no, if we're like 3 days from opening and she's telling me this crap, it'd be like, listen, I have no understudy. Are you doing this or not? And then you just move on.
Let's talk about the sequel. The one sequel that didn't work, in my opinion.
Yeah, we need to move on to Scream 3. Scream 3 came out in 2000. Again, a bigger budget. Still made a lot of money. A little bit less than the previous two, but not too terribly bad if you think about it.
But the most important factor, though, not written by Kevin Williamson at all.
Exactly, not written by Kevin Williamson. Produced, but we don't know by how much. It could be a produced by name only kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing is that in Scream 2, we had the reveal that Stab came out, the fake fictional version of Scream. Mm-hmm. And in Scream 3, we have Stab 3. So we skipped Scream 2 because we already did the sequel conversation. Now we're doing the trilogy conversation. And there are things I like about this movie, but there's a lot of things that just don't work.
Well, the thing that ultimately doesn't work about this film, it's written by a different writer, Aaron Kruger, who doesn't do the comedy nearly as well.
No.
And second of all, this is the one that went too meta. Like, this is the one that Sidney Prescott has a long lost brother who is the killer, by the way, Scott Foley, another Williamson staple, because I do remember him on the early seasons of Dawson's Creek. And they try to go into this whole backstory of her dead mother. It's it's one of those things where it's too much story for where there wasn't a story needed. It was nice and simple, and they make it very complicated, which I guess is kind of its own weird. They don't treat it this way, but I guess it's kind of a weird commentary on horror sequels itself, because eventually down the line, when you get to Nightmare on Elm Street 6, you do have this complicated backstory stuff coming in. So
yeah.
in a way it's brilliant, but it's not as entertaining.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And you're like they start talking about how sometimes trilogies don't work, and this third film totally didn't work. And also I didn't like the cast. I thought Patrick Dempsey was wrong for the role. Jenny McCarthy, what is she doing in there?
She's barely in it, thankfully.
Parker Posey, I like Parker Posey.
I love Parker Posey, but
she just didn't work in this. And I hated the whole Hollywood cliche bullcrap that we had to put up with.
I was really sad about because this film's Drew Barrymore's Cotton Weary. I didn't want Cotton Weary to go. He was awesome at the end of the climax of Scream 2. He was great.
I know, right? Yeah, I wanted to see him at least like if you wanted to kill him off in 3, that's fine, but let's not waste him.
Yeah, that is a waste. The Liev Schreiber in 3 is a waste.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was I remember Scream 3 a lot because this was one of the first DVDs I ever owned. Because this came out when DVD was really getting popular in 99 and 2000. And so I watched it all the time, and I'm really sad because this is all that I had on DVD, and this is probably the poorest one of the franchise. And also, not a lot of Nev Campbell, not a lot of Sidney.
There really isn't, which is shocking to me. It really is. I mean, it's almost like this film cast of Stab 3 are more the main characters, which that shouldn't be. I want more. If we're going to make a sequel, it has to be about Sidney Prescott.
This felt more like a spin-off than a sequel.
It really did, and not a great one. I mean, no. On one hand, I love the fact that Jamie Kennedy somehow made it into this film despite being killed off in Scream 2, but come on, leaving a message just in case that there's a third one is extremely far-fetched.
It really was, but it was nice to see him again. Yeah, so I think that's a big thing, is that it's too meta, as the kids say, and not enough Sidney Prescott. I mean, that's your protagonist, that's your hero, Sidney, and it just did not work. So let's just go ahead and move on to 4.
Yeah, which, Scream 3 set up, and really the ending is built to be the end. So the fact that we were even getting a Scream 4 at any point, A, surprised me, but B, I was excited when I saw the previews and when I saw that Kevin Williamson was back writing it.
Yeah, and this is 11 years after Scream 3.
The only Scream I've seen in theaters.
Really? I haven't seen any of them in theaters. Like, if you think of, so Scream came out in 96, Scream 2 in 97, Scream 3 in 2000, so that's not that big of a break, and Scream 4 11 years later. This was the start of a trend of sequels coming out decades later. I'll
just give you some perspective, Tristan. When Scream 3 came out, it was in the middle of my 5th grade year. When Scream 4 came out, that was my last semester of college. Now,
with this one had the same budget as Scream 3, but did not make the same amount of money. It barely doubled it. Now, that's a good sign. Like that, normally that's a great sign if you double your budget. That's the goal. But it did not have the type of return that they were hoping for. But I didn't really enjoy this one too well, and you might be able to tell me, I might be able to be convinced to give it another chance if you talk about why you like it. But one thing that I did like about it is that in 2011, so many reboots and remakes were going on.
I knew that had to be the theme of it, right? I just knew that, and I used to think for years before that if they made another Scream film, they could just easily get out of this trope of remakes and reboots, which they did. So I give them thumbs up for that. Kevin Williamson was smart to do that.
I think it was necessary at the time for this specific series. Do I think it happens too much? Yeah, we've talked about that. But for this particular franchise, it's not somebody else rebooting the series. It's the series rebooting itself. I think that's fun. That's interesting.
It is fun and interesting, but it's a soft reboot because, we get Nev Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox all back in this film, and they're not. The thing that I love about this film, and maybe why I give it more points than you do, is because you know me, I love horror movies, and usually there's been times when there's going to be another horror sequel. They advertise that they're bringing back all the stars, or at least the main star from the old ones. You know, your beloved favorites are coming back, and then they're the first kill. Which I'll just go ahead and say happened with Halloween. I mean, Halloween H2O came out. It was a big hit. That's the one where Jamie Lee Curtis finally came back to the role. She kicked ass. She was the main hero. She ends up winning in the end. That's the film where she chops his head off. It should have ended there. And then 3 years later, they make another sequel to it. They advertise all over the place that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be in the sequel, and they kill her off in the first 10 minutes. So that really makes me angry as someone who gets invested in these characters. And I was invested in Sidney, Dewey, and Gale at this point. I mean, we spent 3 previous films with them. So I was really, really nervous that they were going to be killed off in favor of this new cast. And it was to my great surprise and delight that they were not. So that really, as a horror fan, as someone who's used to having his favorite characters killed instantaneously without a second thought, the fact that they were given as much love and care, if not more, because they're the survivors again, that really did my heart good in a sense.
Yeah. I think that was definitely surprising to me. I think like the ending was a surprise to me because I expected that to happen because we've seen it happen so many times before. And so I'm glad that they kind of turned that on its head. It's just I didn't like the girl. I didn't like her motivation.
See, but I think her motivation may sound silly, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, which, you know, it's fantastical to be sure. And whether or not you like her as a person or a personality, well, that's down to the actress. I really ended up going with her. But the thing is that people do want instant gratification and instant fame today. And being that she's related to this famous survivor, you know, in a weird, twisted psychopathic way, it didn't seem like it came out of left field. It seemed like it was motivated by story. It made sense as much as anything in a horror movie makes sense. And I thought it worked. And I think that even if you don't necessarily care for this film, I think even you have to admit that you can feel Williamson is back in the writer's chair because the dialogue feels much more closer to the first 2 films than it does that third film.
The clever writing is definitely back. And
so that was very, very much appreciated, at least for me. I mean, this was kind of I equate it to sort of a reunion film in a sense. Like, here's everything you loved about those first 2 films that you loved. We're kind of putting a new spin on it. You know, go for the ride, have fun with us. And I did. I was there at the midnight showing, you know, horror movie crowd. We were all very much into it. And I left extremely happy. And, you know, was it brilliant? No. Was it as great as the first 2 films? No. But it was a far better film than Part 3. And I think for me, it gave a much more satisfactory conclusion than Part 3. So I'm very happy these days just to watch 1, 2, and 4 and have a great time. And so I just had fun with this film.
Now, before we close out the show, I want to ask you a 2-part question. Do you think they'll make another one?
No.
Should they make another one?
No. I think that I think for better or worse, the TV series is going to keep continuing. I haven't seen it, but you know, it got renewed for a second season, so it's going to be continuing. And the reason I don't think they should is because I think you could probably get the cast back, but you know, something to be said about the Scream films, they were all directed by Wes Craven, for better or for worse. I mean, I
didn't even think about that.
They were all his films. That's never happened in any horror franchise. Even the ones that I love, you know, Halloween, John Carpenter never directed any other films but the first one. So the fact that these were so much, you know, to me, the Scream films and Wes Craven are so synonymous that to have someone come in for Part 5 after 4 of his, you know, hard efforts, I think would just kind of feel out of place. And Scream 4 left it in a place where I was happy with that ending. I could easily see them doing what I mentioned that Halloween ended up doing with a Scream 5, because I think they would want to get rid of those old characters. And I think that would be just a huge mistake. So, you know, it ended good. It ended with a much better film than Scream 3. I say leave it as is.
All right, well, that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. That's our thoughts on the Scream franchise. Please go to thenerdparty.com. That's where you can find all of our previous episodes. That's where you can see our blog posts. And from there, you can subscribe on iTunes or Podbean or anywhere that you can find a podcast, you will find us. And you can also find me on Twitter at The Insane Robin.
And you can find me at mhanson0207. Thank you so much for listening to our very special Scream retrospective on the Nerd Party, where we have all told you the rules that one must abide by in order to survive a horror film.
Coming up next week.
It's very deeply rooted in people's psychology. You know, people watch these movies for a long, long time, and they have a say, they have an opinion, and we don't make the movies for critics. We make the movies for the audience, and they are the only people that really matter. You can't try and please everyone. You've got to just make the best movie you can.
We're gonna miss you.
Well, I'm not gone yet.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.